Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Covington City Council meeting for Tuesday, June 11th. In compliance with state law, city council special and regular meetings are held in a hybrid format with in-person, telephonic, and virtual options for public viewing and participation. With that, call this meeting to order, and Krista, if you could please call the roll.
Councilmember Soltis.
I am here.
Councilmember Porter.
Here.
Councilmember Hartsock.
Here.
Councilmember Herjehausen.
Yes.
Councilmember Simomo.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith
Here.
and Mayor Wagner.
Present.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. And just to let everybody know, Councilmember Jennifer Hartshausen is joining us virtually tonight. If everybody could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. First up is approval of agenda. Regan, do we have any changes tonight?
No change.
Thank you. Look for a motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda has been approved. Next, we have public communication. First is Catherine's house and Rita's house. Stephanie Obaj Schmore, did I pronounce that right? And Nancy Huntington. Okay,
Great.
welcome. Thank you
Thank
for being
you.
here tonight.
Thank you so much. Such an honor. Nice to see some familiar faces. So my name is Stephanie Obed-Schmore, the program manager of Catherine's House and Rita's House and Covington Safe Car Parking. Oh, I see that my slides are good. Thanks so much, Krista. So I'm going to share a little bit with you about some of the things that Catholic Community Services is doing to provide services to people experiencing homelessness in South King County. So first I'm going to cover Catherine's House and Rita's House. Catherine's House and Rita's House are, well, they're two transitional housing programs for homeless adult women who have substance use disorder. You can go to that slide for me, Krista.
Oh, and I apologize. I have a clicker.
Oh,
Left, on the little table on the left side, very left.
oh, left. Okay, sweet, even better. Thank you. Control, I love it. So it's a family style living situation to assist women in return to independent living and as productive members of our community. So residents can stay up to 2 years with us. They have their own room, they have shared bathrooms, and then they have to engage in chores and meetings and IOP, as well as, you know, attend their 12-step meetings. And then they're able to stay with us for 2 years and work on whatever it is that they need to work on. Sometimes it's getting connected to their children. Sometimes it's working towards employment. Every single person that was working towards permanent supportive housing, so that when they, or permanent housing, doesn't have to be supportive, they'll always have me when they leave. So that when they leave the program, they have a place to live. So that is the ultimate goal, and that they would be able to stay there for as long as they need. So our team is myself, our director Jillian, and 2 life skills coordinators that work swing shift so that ladies have support when they need it. Our focus is in creating a safe environment to support healthy lifestyle changes that nurtures each resident's potential. I was going to show you some pictures. This on the left there, that's Rita's house. I actually took that picture today, and that's our 3 chickens. Very proud of those girls. The ladies have to, you know, go and collect their eggs every day. The funny thing about all the Rita's House gals right now is that none of them eat eggs. So we have to take them over to Catherine's house. So Rita's house is in Auburn. Catherine's house is in Kent. And so you can see the bedroom, that's actually a bedroom at Catherine's house in Kent. Someone was not living in that room. We took that picture. So as you can see, it's a home. We, you know, create a safe place where people can kind of settle in for 2 years and catch their breath and figure out what they need to do and heal. And it's such a pleasure. I was gonna share some pictures. So one of the most important things that I think that we can provide is community and a sense of fun. You know, the women at the houses really do heavy work. People in recovery from substance use disorder have to do work that a lot of us normies or normal, you know, regular folks that don't have that particular illness have to do. And they have to work on their mental health, their emotional health, their life skills, relational health. All of those things are under a microscope, especially when they're actively in our program and actively working the steps and those sorts of things. So, so it's a lot of seriousness. Like it's like reflecting back on childhood wounds, and you know, it's like all of this like really hard stuff. And so, having fun is sometimes difficult when you're going through that process. So we try to provide some opportunities for that. So yesterday we actually went to Mount Rainier and spent the whole day there, and it was just like this like beautiful, wonderful day and some great connections, some good talks, and just kind of getting back to remember that we're humans in this beautiful world that we live in. Yeah, it's just, you know, I like to say that joy is our birthright. So even though if we get into the mud and the muck and we're working through things, we're doing it because joy is the ultimate gift that we can receive. And sometimes when the women get in to the situations that they get themselves into, it's really hard to see that. So we like to provide that as much as we can. I wanted to share a story too, along those lines. This is Miss Olivia, not a resident or past resident. She is the daughter of one of our alumni named Allie. So Allie came to us and she had just given birth to Olivia. She didn't know when she went to the hospital that she was pregnant. And they had to do an emergency C-section. And when Miss Olivia was born, it changed the trajectory of her life. She had been in drug use for 20 years up until that point. It had kind of began when she was in the military, and her partner had committed suicide. And that put her in this place where she started using different types of narcotics and opiates. So when she found out that she had a daughter, she didn't find out she was pregnant. When she found out she had a daughter, it completely changed the trajectory of her life. And we got her real fresh after going through detox and then to inpatient. Over the 2 years with us, Allie transformed. She came in with lots of understandable like mood issues and having lots of disagreements with staff and with she would tell you all this too, and with people that she lived with. And by the end of it, she had learned how to be a mother, how to take care of herself. And it was a miraculous thing. She actually texted me today just sharing pictures of how Olivia's been doing. And she currently lives in her own apartment in Redmond with her daughter. She has a part-time job, started school. And she says she's never loved life more than she does now. It's just been an incredible journey to watch. And she's just one of the many women that have graduated our programs that have done this work and are continuing to excel. So that's a little bit of Allie. I could tell you story after story of the women in our programs and the hard work that they're doing. We're so proud of them. Obviously, I'm sure you can tell. I'm just like so proud of them. I love them. Another one of the programs that Catholic Community Services provides here in South King County is Safe Car Parking, which is located here in Covington at St. John the Baptist Catholic Church. The Safe Car Parking program is an overnight safe place to park. guests are provided a place to park from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. I'm looking at Nancy, she's gonna come up here soon.
Hmm.
And the case manager, which is provided through Catholic Community Services, provides that support to be able to work towards their goals and ultimately permanent housing. So I want to bring up Nancy to chat a little bit about the program and how it got started, as well as what it looks like as this is the church's ministry. And then maybe I can fill in some things as needed.
I think this will be too short for me. I'm short now. Yeah, we started in 2018. Took us 2 years to get going. We had multiple talks with the neighborhoods. I had to go through every committee at church to say, this is what we want to do. Anyway, between the MOU and everything here, it took us 2 years, but we got going. We were initially given 6 spots, which is perfect. And that's what we do. We've increased by 2 now. The program's been so good, but we don't have additionals. We're all volunteers, so we don't have additional people to take on more. Of course, Stephanie's been doing case management, so she can't take on any more us. So, but we have the volunteers who do this. We have 2 volunteers a week who were signed up ahead of time, and we check. What do we do? We check cameras every night, random times. The 2, like tonight, I'm checking at 10:30. Somebody's gonna do her drive-by. We each do a drive-by a week, and those are random nights that we pick. We don't want everything to be the same for anybody to know when we're gonna come. So we do that. And we have enough volunteers that I do about 1 week a month, and everybody else does too. So if somebody needs to go on vacation for extended period of time, then we'll cover. We're all good, and we help each other. Most of the volunteers have been there since the beginning of 2018, so we've got a good group. I think only one is still working, and she's a teacher, so her times of working, helping at night, staying up at night and watching and doing drive-bys is a little harder during the school year. So she doubles up on vacations and during Christmas, Thanksgiving, she does extra time. So she's pretty awesome. So that's kind of, and then at the end of the week, our drive-bys. Okay.
I was gonna ask you, Nancy, the question was in my head and then it just popped out. Oh man, I came up here to ask you a question. So when the program started to now, what do you think has changed? Like, what's been some of the biggest differences that's changed?
I don't think there's any difference for us.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, it's the neighborhood. One neighborhood was pretty adamant, and they've been down here several times, and I was here at the same time. And so, they were pretty adamant, but the fears were not followed up on. There were no fears, there were no complaints. We just had a really successful program, and the volunteers, if I do my drive-by and there is somebody in the lot that we can't see from the camera angle, I'll call the partner I'm on with is on the phone, and they will come down. So we both approach the car.
Yeah.
So, but we've had less and less people thinking they can park there and do what they want.
Good.
And you guys have put in the dividers or what is it
Oh,
called?
yeah, the speed
The speed
bumps.
bumps at the church and an extra gate so that people can't come in.
Yeah, we had teenagers doing donuts around our people.
Great.
Just
Yeah.
terrifying. One woman who was standing out at a pole charging her phone in a place we have.
Yeah.
And David put in petition for the money from the church and got speed bumps in all the way around everywhere. And he got a big gate at the back. So we realized there was a drug house kitty corner from us. We did not know about, which made me unhappy because we should have known that.
Right.
Yeah,
So that I was thinking about how in the last, since in 2023 compared to 2022, we had an increase in the program of the participants at the program of about 118%.
Wow.
So one of the biggest changes that I've seen and has impacted volunteers is the amount of people seeking help and services from the car parking program. And that has been something that we've been talking with the city of Covington about, with your staff. And, you know, they've been integral in, providing services, you know, with the chief of police and other staff too, providing some funds, as you guys know, for the program too. I wanted to share a few of the really positive things that happened, in the last year. We supported 8 people moving into permanent housing, which is huge, and 11 people moving into shelter. We consider both of those things positive outcomes, getting people out of their cars, off the streets and inside. And since 2018, we've had 82 households stay with us, for an average length of stay of about 4 months overall. I was gonna share a little bit about Richard.
cool.
So Richard was a gentleman that was with us, seemed like for a long time, seemed like forever. He was there for about 3 years. And when I met Richard, I wish I had what's it called? Oh, there's the part
Oh,
where I wish I had a picture of him, but I don't. So Richard was a self-identified, he called himself a hobo. So he was one of those folks that would ride the train, jump off, go help farmers and ranchers pick apples all throughout the Western United States. So he's told me stories about when he was down in LA, when he was in Oregon and Yakima, you know, all the way. He was sharing stories about all the different places he's worked. Recently, he shared with me a story about how he helped put in the ice, I don't know, the things that help the ice at the Shower Center. I was like, oh my goodness, you've helped create our community. And he was sharing about how he put in the 24-hour fitness in Kent. And I was just like, this man. So when I met Richard, he adamantly told me, Stephanie, I do not ever want to move inside. So you do not have to ask me about this. I was like, okay, well. So, you know, over 2 years I was working with him, I would bring it up on occasion. And during those 2 years, he went through chemotherapy, radiation,
In his car.
in his car. And he recovered, started working out, and then started going back to work. That was his like main thing, is that he really wanted to go back to work. And so he had been at work for a few months, and I got a message from the church that they had somebody in the church community that was interested in providing housing, $900 a month, which is like,
Oh.
amazing. So, I asked Richard, you know, like I called up Richard and I was like, would you be maybe interested in this apartment? And he said that he would consider it. And that if I could just like go through with the next step. I was like, okay, got you, man. So we're going through the process. We sign him up for renter's insurance, and he's still kind of like, oh, I don't know. He's going to like sign the lease, and he calls me and he's like, Stephanie, you know, I don't want this all to go through all this trouble, you know, because I might not even get the apartment. I'm like, Richard, man, like you're going to sign the lease. You're going to pick up the keys. Like you have the apartment. Yeah, it was just like outside of his understanding if that could happen. So about, you know, 6 months, it's now been, well, it's probably been more like a year that Richard's been living in that apartment up there on East Hill. And it comes to find out it's just about a block away from where I live. And so it's been a gift to be able to be neighbors and now friends. And Richard is just, it's such a gift to have been able to walk with him through this journey. There have been a number of other people that have also gotten housed and have spectacular stories. But he's just one of those ones where it's like, sometimes you hear these stories of people that don't want to get housed. And I've rarely come in my time working in people experiencing homeless. I never actually had someone say that to me except Richard. He's the only one that's ever said, I don't want to go inside. And then proved me wrong. So what a gift. So it's an honor to be able to serve in this way to our community. The other thing is, because of this great need that we have, specifically Catholic Community Services is currently working towards providing more intensive services for the car parking program, not expanding the number of people that can stay, but the amount of services provided. So we are going to be, asking South King County cities and other stakeholders for their support with that, because there's such a great need. So we really thank you for your time and for hearing about our programs. We're very passionate about them. Of course, we'll take any questions that you have. Yeah.
Does
thank
anybody
you.
have any questions? Debbie?
Just a comment. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say how much I appreciate what you do. You're definitely making a difference in lives and in this community. And I love that with the Safe Car Parking Program, it isn't that you're just giving them a place to park, because you are offering those wraparound services. And I know you didn't have time to get into all of them, but job coaching and signing up for health benefits and all of that some of those people just haven't had a chance to get to before. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Jennifer?
Sorry, it takes me a minute to hit all the buttons on my tablet. Just a comment for me as well. During the pandemic, brought meals to the folks who were at the Safe Car Parking during that time, twice a week for over a year, and got to know some of them pretty well. And not all of them, some of them are definitely more reclusive than others, but hearing their stories, really seeing that these are people just like the rest of us, and giving them this safe place. And that was definitely a common theme, how safe they felt at St. John's, to have this place where they could, address the next things in life is definitely a huge gift that you're giving to our community and to humans. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anybody else? Stephanie and Nancy, thank you very much for being here. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
all that
much.
you do for our community. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next is emergency management update. Andy, welcome.
Thank you for letting me be here and have a few minutes of time tonight. I just wanted to provide you guys a quick update on some emergency management happenings over the last 6 months or so. I went to the King County Summer Weather Hazard Seminar, and they told us that we're to expect drought conditions that we're pretty much there now because the snowpack is low. So the threat of wildfire this summer is going to be higher than normal, and to be ready for that. Some trainings that we've done recently, myself and two of my coworkers went and got certified. We're certified through the state to teach incident command system classes. So we just held intermediate incident command for expanding incidents, ICS 300, had some city staff members there. We did a Covington Days tabletop exercise in this room last week and discussed a couple different scenarios on how the city and staff would respond during a major incident that occurred during the parade or the festival itself. We have CERT coming up again. Community Emergency Response Team will be in September. So as soon as the registration is open for that, I'll be pushing that out to all city staff and encouraging anybody to attend, whether you've taken it and it was a long time ago, or you have never taken it. And that's taught by all of us from the emergency management team, as well as a bunch of our firefighters come in and teach the classes as well. And then any other trainings that come up, I send out to city staff throughout the year and encourage them and help them register. Our hazard mitigation plan that I updated when I first started here in 2018 is due for its update. So I'm working on doing that. It's due for its 5-year update already.
Wow.
So I'm working on that process because they gave us a short turnaround time of December of this year. So I'll be doing work groups at the county again. We'll do public outreach. We'll do those coordinated with SeaTac in Covington and Kent and Maple Valley. We'll do them together like we did last time. And then our Emergency Operations Center, which is located in this room, if it has to be set up, I held our first full setup in March. So we took out all the equipment that I've purchased with grant funding and set up all the stations in this room and gave everybody familiarity. I had a lot of staff come through here. I'm gonna be scheduling another one probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And when I do that, I'll invite you guys to come and check it out with Krista. So you can see what it has. So then we'll identify staff to come in. Now that we have it set up, we'll start identifying staff to come in and fill positions in here. And part of that will be some training. FEMA has said that there's requirement now that we have a credentialing program in place to be eligible for the grant funding that I received for emergency management. I sit on a steering committee at the county level. There's a bunch of us local emergency managers sit on that to determine how that might look. It will be, a lot of it will be for if we deploy to another EOC, like if something happened in SeaTac only and they needed people, then we would be able to go work in their EOC. But there are some that will be required for here. Just all of our city staff currently have to take some basic ICS level FEMA courses. So that, and then our EMPG, Emergency Management Performance Grant that I apply for every year. The last one, I bought 8 new radios. So we have a total of 17 radios now that we can use, which will be fantastic during Covington days. So we'll be able to communicate better. And we also have 1 base station radio sitting at the reception desk, and then 16 portable radios. And then with the new grant that I just got, I'm gonna buy some more supplies for the EOC, like some safety things to make sure that all the cords are kept neat. And we're gonna buy some signage to label each section of the EOC, like planning and logistics and all that. And then anything else that we might come up with if there's money left in the grant. Other than that, I don't have any more update. You guys have any questions for me?
Anybody have any questions, Brandy?
I know several of us up here have taken CERT trainings. Is there a way to incorporate those folks in the city, residents included, that have gone through that? Bringing them into the loop so that if there is an emergency, they have more updated information about how to coordinate their efforts with what's going on here.
I think it's possible. Depending on how the city goes about it,
Mhm.
we'd have to register them as emergency workers and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff, but
Mhm, mhm.
there is something that they could do.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Andy, thank you very much for the update. Really appreciate it. Always appreciate hearing everything that's being prepared. It's always better to be prepared.
Mhm.
I agree.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is our first of 2 public comment periods. We do have a public hearing coming up, so if you're here to speak for the public hearing concerning the battery energy storage system, please hold your comments until that, so we can get them into the public hearing. And so first, the public hearing or public comment. Speakers will state their name, address, and organization. Comments are directed to the city council, not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to no more than 4 minutes per speaker. For attendees participating virtually, click the raise hand button in Zoom. For attendees participating by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. Once the city grants you permission to speak, press unmute if participating virtually or dial *6 to unmute if participating by phone. Notice to all participants pursuant to state law RCW 42.17A.555. Campaigning for any ballot measure or candidate in City Hall and or during any portion of the city council meeting, including the audience comment portion of the meeting, is prohibited. And with that, I'll go down the list. Let's see. That's for public hearing. Teresa, you here for public hearing or? Okay. James Delay, public hearing. And Sam Pace. Okay. Is there anybody else wishing to address council for public comment during this first period? Is there anybody online wishing to address council? Seeing nobody raise their hand and nobody raise their hand online, the public comment period is closed. Next up is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda consisting of items C1 through C6. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The comment, wow, consent agenda. Gonna be a long night. Better not be.
No.
No, the consent agenda has been approved. Thank you. I'm thinking of this next item right away. All right, next up is tonight we have a public hearing to receive testimony from the public regarding an emergency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Covington, Washington, relating to adopting a 12-month moratorium on the acceptance, processing, and or approval of applications for building and land development permits and related land use decisions for battery energy storage system facilities to be located within the City of Covington. This being the date set and proper notices having been posted and published in accordance with state and local law, hereby the public hearing is now declared open. And Selena.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight you have a public hearing that's associated with the moratorium that was adopted at the last council meeting. I've got about 5 slides I'm going to go through real quick just to talk about the purpose of this moratorium and the public hearing, and then I'll hand that back to you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So tonight, the reason that we're here is that the council passed a moratorium on May 14th. Under the state law, the council has the authority to do that. That can be a 12-month moratorium. As outlined in the blue sheet before you tonight, there's also a high-level work plan that's associated with that moratorium that talks about the steps that staff's going to be taking over the next 12 months. Or more if needed, depending on the will of the council and the planning commission to move this forward. And so also as part of the RCWs, we must hold a public hearing on that moratorium within, I believe it's 60 days of the adoption of that. So tonight is that step in that formality of the moratorium. The council did pass the moratorium at the last meeting. So tonight's public testimony could result in changes to that moratorium or modifications, or that it captures what it is the council would like to do tonight. And so that is the purpose tonight. We're going to hear from the public. Why do we need this moratorium? The biggest reason, and I'll talk about it in another slide, is that there's just a lot of regulatory changes that have come out of our state legislature over the last few years. And our zoning codes need to catch up with that. And I think also our education and outreach and our understanding of these technologies also need to be caught up so that we can make an informed decision about how we address these within our community. So we're going to be looking at those regulatory gaps. We're going to be looking at those community impacts and in that outreach education portion of it. And then how do we proactively address this topic? So a little bit of background on BESS, and this has become a hot topic across the region. I know we've got folks that have heard about other cities that are also making these same decisions. Is that the state legislation passed the House Bill 1216, which is the clean energy legislation, and that legislation basically sets up the process for citing and permitting clean energy projects. And what it does is it breaks it down into a couple different processes. So we've got the local level, which would be the agencies like Covington, other cities. We've got the county levels. They make decisions within the county. And then we've got Department of Ecology, who's set to make some guidance for cities to move forward on. And then we've got the Energy Facility Siting Council. And so they all have different roles and responsibilities in this process. And those are things that staff are just learning about now or coming to light to figure out how we process these and be able to meet the mandates of the clean energy bill as well as our zoning desires for Covington. So these are some of the things that staff will continue to be educated on and work with those agencies to fully understand and bring back that information to our electeds. I just wanted to put this in front of you. This is basically our zoning today. It's very similar to what King County had previously, where we just have this term utility facility. And that talks about, you know, things that we're used to seeing as far as utilities, your water, your sewer, your garbage, your electricity. And this really has been modernized to address where the technology is taking us. So over the next 12 months, we'll be looking at these types of definitions, language, making sure that we have the zoning in place, correctly identified. And that when, you know, if we get such a use, they know where they can be or how they can operate in Covington. So I just wanted a little reminder that we still have that bigger bucket here. And part of our role will be to look into how do we discern that down to meet the emerging technologies. And with that, that is the end of my very quick presentation, Mayor. I will stop sharing and hand this over to you.
Great, thanks, Selena. The ground rules for public comment during the public hearing are as follows. When your name is called, step up to the microphone, give your name, and state whether you are a resident of the city of Covington. Please limit your comments to 4 minutes. The city clerk will set a timer that will go off when your time is up. When the timer goes off, please wind up properly. With that, I will start with Taryn Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
I have to state address, right?
Just if you're a resident.
Oh, yeah, I'm a Covington resident. Hello, my name is Taryn Pfeiffer. I first off just want to really open up and say I'm so thankful and appreciative of what you all have done. I am beyond thrilled that you are standing up for your citizens, for your neighbors, for who you represent and our families. I think you're in great company and increasing company as we've seen numerous counties and really in the last year plus have been enacting these moratoriums, including we got Yakima, Whatcom, Benton, Klickitat, cities like Renton, Goldendale, Black Diamond, and now Covington. I think this is so important on a statewide, really nationwide scale, because again, knowing this is newer tech, the use of lithium-ion batteries in this format of massive million, amounts in shipping containers, it's really only 5-year-old tech. So knowing that this is something that is being pushed upon communities by billionaire energy companies, and when there's not the protections, as you guys mentioned, regulatory gaps, there's just not an understanding of how this should be zoned, cited. And I think that is the platform. It's making sure there's more time for this science to be studied, the protections, because fires are happening. It's happening everywhere. And when these fires occur, they are disastrous. They're toxic. We just had, I thought it was so interesting, May 14th was when you guys enacted this, which I mean, I was like cheering from my home, my neighbors, my family members. And that is also when there was a fire in Otay Mesa down in San Diego, the exact same day that fire started on a 250 megawatt site, which is about the exact same proposed that they're saying all around the state here. 200 is the average they're proposing in different cities. And that lasted 2 weeks. We're talking massive evacuations. Now, also of note though, Otay Mesa is on a power plant, industrial zone. It is right on the Mexican border. So there are no residences in the US in that for miles surrounding. There's a municipal airport. It is industrial. I think that is what's so key. Even when we had Melba, Idaho, had a 2 megawatt fire, hadn't even been installed yet, like properly connected to the grid. And they had a fire within just having set it up. And that was last October. And just seeing that was the evacuated 7-mile radius, but it was very isolated. It was mainly a handful of residents. We're talking in the ones we're seeing, the locations, around our area, next to families, next to schools. It's just something that we have to have protections in place, or we won't be protected, and it can be too late. Once they're in place, once these facilities slip through, how do we get them back out? How do we backtrack? We can't. So I think this is so key, and I really pray and hope that King County sees what is happening and acknowledges what they owe our citizens, our community, like you guys have. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Taryn. Thank you for being here. Next is Teresa. Welcome.
My name's Teresa Turner. I live on 171st Avenue Southeast in Covington, Washington. I'm here just to thank you for being proactive and for instructing our government to look into this and come up with better regulations. I wish that King County was listening. We've been to many meetings and it just kept being pushed into committee after committee, and they've really buried it. And it's very frustrating as a citizen to see a project of this size go up next, right on the athletic field of the middle school in our neighborhood. I have a lot of concerns about the noise, concerns about possible fires. As you're considering your policies, please do not put these facilities near hospitals or near schools. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to expose our children to the possible harm that these facilities can cause when there's a fire. Also, there's a real need in Covington to preserve our water and our wetlands. We have some beautiful areas here that are really going to be threatened with the building of these facilities in the wrong place. And we also have a pretty extensive industrial area located right on the side of across the street from Costco, which would be perfect for a facility like this if we were to accept something like that into our community. So anyway, I really appreciate it. I do believe in clean energy. I do have concerns about these batteries because the lithium batteries can't be, if they have a fire, they can't be put out. They have to be allowed to burn out. And that is not a good thing for our environment. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for being here. Next is James DeLay. Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm not going to talk a lot, which may be surprising. First of all, thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate you guys taking that extra step and, putting a moratorium in place. It helps reinforce the fact that you guys care about your citizens. Unfortunately, it's still under King County, the EFSC or Department of Ecology to make the decision. And I appreciate all your further outreach to King County and the other entities saying that you oppose subjecting your students and your citizens to all of this. That's really it. I sent you an email about the latest fire, so there's probably lots of details I don't need to talk about, but just thank you. I appreciate it. And please don't give up, keep helping us fight, and let's stop this thing from, being in the wrong place. Now that I got my thank yous out of the way, because I do like to talk, there are a whole bunch of different types of energy storage that are out there and available. Not all of them are battery based. There are some battery based storage that are not lithium, that don't have the same propensity to catch fire or spontaneously combust or explode or release toxic gases. On top of that, there's even other types of energy storage, which could be compressed air. So literally, if there's an explosion, you release oxygen or CO2 or whatever type of gas that they want to use. Then there's gravity based, which is my favorite, which basically could be like a dam is gravity based. You can have pumped hydro, where they basically have the storage container down at the bottom of the hill, storage container at the top, and then they use clean energy, excess clean energy, pump the water up, and then let it come down when they need to use it. So it's basically, and it can be completely enclosed. It could be even underground, so you don't even see it. It could just pump back and forth all day long. And unlike lithium batteries, it could actually store depending on the size, you could weeks worth of power to, you know, I think our best is 200,000 homes. You could do weeks of power for that. So, and then there's even another one where they actually they basically build what looks like a building. And they raise bags of dirt or concrete, raise it up with the clean energy. And notice I keep saying that's being charged up with clean energy. And then when they need the power, they just drop these, you know, bags of dirt, which, you know, they're 20 tons or whatever, concrete blocks. And then there's even reusing mine shafts, where they basically can do the same thing. They can raise, you know, some weight and then lower it to propel a generator. So battery energy storage, although it's like the main thing in the news, is not our only energy storage opportunity or resource that we can go after. And it's just the most commercial, the most profitable. So there are a lot of other viable options that are out there. So when you're doing your planning, also consider that. And final last thing, if you were to do a lithium ion, you know, battery storage system in Covington, I'd say put it over by the industrial zone, and also have a whole bunch of requirements. Like in the Otay Mesa fire, they had a robot that could detect the toxicity of the air. So we need to know, okay, how far out do we have to evacuate? Also have plans in place where you have a hazmat team, you know, that's ready on standby that can get there within a couple of hours. And you just have to have the most robust emergency response possible to protect your citizens, because it's proven over and over again that it's likely to eventually catch on fire. So that's it. So thank you again.
Great. Thank you for being here tonight. Next is Sam Pace. Welcome, Sam.
Thanks.
You. Yep.
Good evening. My name's Sam Pace. I live outside the city about 3 minutes. I'm not going to read that. I'm not going to cover everything that's in it, but I offer it to you as kind of a more comprehensive view than what I want to talk about tonight. I'm aware that there is no pending application inside the city, and this is a prophylactic moratorium that you've adopted, and I think it's well advised. I think it's important to note that the energy generation and the grid are both insufficient to meet our electrical needs now and definitely going forward. And it's possible that BESS facilities could be an important way to augment that supply, but there are a number of concerns. You've heard some of them mentioned tonight. Firefighters are not able to fight the fire. And then when you have a fire, you have dispersed ash, residue, carbon, potential air, groundwater pollution, especially if it rains here, and that passes through the surface pollution. And lithium ion presents a fire risk that is not typical of our other utilities, water, sewage, garbage. In a rare situation, you might find some garbage that would spontaneously combust, but you put it out. This is a much different situation. In the materials that I provided to you, I've referred you to a database on available failure incidences. The best entities are active in Western real estate markets, as I've described there. One of the questions is, will the power that's stored here be used here, or will it be placed, shipped off to other states? And if there's an incident, who will be responsible for the cleanup? The moratorium provides an opportunity to think through the issues and the applicable processes, both for projects in the city and under NEPA for projects outside the city that may have impacts here, and I've mentioned those. we tend to think in terms of just city and state processes, the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council and Ecology with the NPDES. But none of that preempts your ability to invoke NEPA. And the moratorium, I think, provides an opportunity for you to look at the influence you can exert. NEPA doesn't prevent projects, but it does provide an opportunity for you to negotiate with companies that have substantial financial capability. Mitigation, prevention, damage, and also the cost of the city's monitoring of those potential impacts. In order for, there are a number of ways that NEPA could be triggered. I've identified some of those. The most likely is there'll be wheeling power. They buy it when it's cheap, they hang on to it, then peak power, they send it. They're gonna be putting it on BPA and PSC transmission lines. They can't do that with BPA without a contract, and that's a federal action that triggers NEPA, and it gives you a gigantic hammer to try to ensure that the full scope of the potential benefits and concerns are addressed at the front end of the cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. That is all who had signed up for public hearing. Is there anybody else in the audience wishing to address council? Yes. State your name and whether you're a resident or not.
I'm Bonnie Helms. I'm from Auburn, Lee Hill, just across the way. I just want to empower you guys with anything that I have that you may not already know about BESS to continue the moratorium on it. Especially the fact that there are so many alternatives to lithium. And as I've researched it, it seems like lithium is really the issue that everybody has. We agree that we need some sort of storage facility for all of our renewable energies. Lithium's not even really renewable. It's a finite material. They're having a hard time like sourcing it in different places where I think we just found out that Biden said to source it from Southeast Asia within the last couple of weeks because we need so many solar panels. So we're really struggling with the renewables anyway. So one of the alternatives that's coming up, and I'm hoping the US plant that just got built back east is going to be able to produce sodium ion batteries, which there's multiple reasons why it would be better as a BESS. Now, energy density with lithium is hard to compete with because it fits in our phones and everything, right? But the issue is the size. Sodium, as far as its density, cannot compete with lithium except in the energy storage facilities. So just to give you a couple of things that sodium has up on lithium is that it's abundant and easier to source. It can reduce the environmental impact of raw material extraction for sodium ion batteries. That includes the fossil fuels that it takes to extract and manufacture lithium and process it. The production using cobalt and nickel is typically more energy intensive. Both battery types involve energy intensive manufacturing processes, but lithium ion batteries generally require more complex and energy consuming steps as well. The life cycle assessments generally show that sodium ion batteries have a lower overall environmental impact due to their reliance on more abundant and less environmentally damaging raw materials. It's salt. It's everywhere. You don't have to damage things like you do with lithium. We're killing flamingos in Argentina for all our batteries. I'm sure you guys have heard about the Congo and the children, and people are just suffering because of all this stuff. And it's not really renewable. So it's got to be for the money, basically. When you start searching back for all of that, though, you start realizing that all of this money that we're putting into things like the Inflation Reduction Act and the tax credits, which is why they want to put them out here in our areas for the tax and credits in our energy community is what they call it. So much of that could, because there's so much money available for it, go into the research and development. So when you're thinking about what kind of battery energy storage do we have? Are we really getting the best, or are we getting last year's technology? And it's going to degrade. It's going to be another Otay Mesa. It's going to be another Arizona. I mean, and we're investing in our future. So this has to be a long-term solution. So lithium has a ton of problems. Let me just look at my notes real quick. That's all basically the same stuff. But I did also want to say that As far as it being a utility, I really see a battery energy storage facility more like a gas station. Like our gas, it's supposed to be an alternative to gas, fossil fuels. So instead of it being like a power line, we're selling that energy out of state. People know that they're gonna have a surplus and discharge that energy. They're not just gonna let it sit there and not make money off of it. It doesn't make sense. So it's gonna get discharged. So it's kind of more like a gas station. Also, it's freezing cold in here. I have my sweater on. It's nice outside, but the AC could be turned down a little bit and then we're consuming less energy and we need a little less for that stuff. So not to call you all out, but those are the other steps that we could do to decrease our energy demands. So keep the moratorium.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience wishing to address council tonight? Yes. You state your name and whether you're a resident or not.
My name is Desiree DeLay and I live just outside of the city of Covington. I'm not going to talk about BESS because I am obviously not the expert in my family on the subject. I just want to thank you. This is a big step for our family and our community. And I want you to realize how much time and energy is being put into this by a lot of people that are in this room. And I hope that you guys continue to use these 12 months or longer to ask questions, to dig deep, and lean on those that have the information. And I just thank you. It's a big deal. And, thank you to the community members that are putting a lot of their lives on hold to provide you guys with as much information that I think got us to this point today. So thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. Is there anybody else in the audience wishing to address council tonight on this? Yes.
Just very briefly, because everybody else said it faster. My name is Darcy Govea. I actually live in Covington. I live on Tamarack Ridge, which is right across the street from Matson Middle School, where the BESS is being proposed. And so I know exactly where this area is, and I've been through it many times. And I'm thankful to all of you for the moratorium that you have placed on this. And I think that clearly a school is not the right place to put something that can literally explode with toxic fumes and kill people, kill children. It's pretty clear cut that school children and blast radius should not be in the same sentence. And if that's the case, you should just automatically say no to that thing being in that location. And again, like everybody here, I agree that we need to find green ways to do it. We need to find alternatives, and technology is moving at an incredible pace. And a day may even come where they have a way to put out these fires in a BESS with some chemical that would negate all of our concerns. But that day is not today. That day probably won't be a year from now or even 2 years from now. It's all too new, too unstudied. So thank you for taking the time to study, to take the concerns, to protect the children, to protect the wetlands, to protect our communities. So huge thank you also to the folks in the audience. You all know who you are for making all this possible and letting us even know it was happening. And thank you all for your letter to the King County Council against that BESS by Matson Middle School as well. Appreciate that. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you. Is there anybody online wishing to address council? Please raise your hand. All right, last call. Anybody else wishing to address council during the public hearing? All right, seeing nobody else, I declare this public hearing closed. And does council have any questions to ask Selena at this time? Sean?
Selena, I appreciate this, and I want to echo what I've heard from the public tonight and others that, we need to take this next 12 months or longer to do a deep dive into these facilities, looking at regulations on location, size of those facilities. But I did want to make sure we don't lose the feedback tonight about the types as well, because I think we are being sold an idea that there are only a single type of battery energy storage. So I'd like to see that. In our review, I also think we need to look at what additional things we can do related to it, such as financial assistance or financial, it's not assistance, financial requirements on these facilities if they do have a failure. So Do they have to put up a certain bond in order to help cover or pay for some of the mitigation? Definitely want to look at requirements related to safety. End of life. Want to look at if a facility like this was developed in Covington. These things have a 30-year lifespan, but what happens to those at the end? Is Covington going to be left holding the bag on disposing of those batteries? So I may have more ideas that I'll send you. Oh, things like setbacks and screening as well. That seems to be an issue, is making sure that if we do allow these facilities that they blend into our community. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but different sizes. So there has been a conversation about these large industrial type BESS facilities that would likely work best in certain areas in Covington, industrial maybe. But then there are standalone units that we want to look at those too and see if those are appropriate for housing units, that sort of thing. And then in the end, I guess when we're a year from now, I mean, I appreciate the plan that we're looking at. I would like to see the information that is uncovered presented in some type of form, white paper or something like that, that details everything that comes out of this. I could also see us halfway through doing a work session with the planning commission to kind of make sure we're heading in the right direction. I would hate for us to get to the end and go, wow, that's not at all what we wanted. So let's meet halfway through with the planning commission and make corrections or changes that need to be made as opposed to halfway, as opposed to at the end. So, yeah, I appreciate all the work that's been done so far. Those are my initial thoughts, and if I have more, I'll send them your way. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else having any questions for staff at this time? All right, seeing nobody else raise their hand. Thank you all very much for being here. If most of you were here a year ago tonight, on the second Tuesday of June, when we had a packed crowd. So thank you for your continued information that you send to us. And as you can see, it's not over. We just keep pushing forward. So thank you all very much. Next is new business item number 2, consider appointments to the Arts Commission. Let's see, we have 3 positions available. We've had 4 people interviewed. Does council wish to take any action tonight? Christina?
Yes, I would move to appoint Katie Ludman, and I don't have it in front of me, to fill position number 5 on the Arts Commission with term expiring May 31st, 2027.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it. Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Katie Ludeman to fill position number 5 on the Arts Commission with a term expiring May 31st, 2027. Christina, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I was very impressed with Katie's overall interview. I think her extensive experience in both designing, funding, installation art in the public area was very intricate. It's an intricate piece to the Arts Commission. And also a critical component was that she also had to fund some of the artwork that she solely placed in a public space. And I think she would be a great asset to the commission.
Great, thank you. Sean,
Yeah, second, Mr. Mayor, I just second that. I guess just to not reiterate, but go over, I think I was struck by Katie's thoughts and passion for art and its ability to create a sense of place and connection to a community. And I know Covington, that's one of our goals, is to develop that more, to create this kind of brand and feeling when you come into Covington. So I appreciate that that understanding and the need for that when we talk about public art.
Thank you, Sean. Is there anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? It's been moved and seconded to appoint Katie Ludeman to fill position number 5 on the Arts Commission with a term expiring May 31st, 2027. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Katie. Does council wish to take further action tonight? Beth?
I move to appoint Paloma Rivera to fill position number 6 on the Arts Commission with a term expiring May 31st, 2027.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Paloma Marina Rivera to fill position number 6 on the Arts Commission. Beth, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, and just to say, this was a very challenging to
Mhm.
have 4 really strong candidates for 3 positions, but I appreciated Paloma's answers when she was talking about youth interaction and having generational exposure, and her comments about diversity and trying to bring art to folks that typically may not have resources to be exposed to it. So having that lens, I think, is very helpful. And I think she also offered some very candid and professional feedback on some improvements for the Arts Commission in a way that is
Yeah.
very collaborative, and I think it'll be very helpful with her experience and then moving forward. And she has focused on community engagement and outreach and providing outlets. So I think it'd be great to have her continue.
Thank you, Beth. Christina, would you like to speak to your second?
Sure. Yes, I agree with everything Councilmember Porter said. And I did like her idea of involving neighbor cities and not just like 2 cities or 3 cities. It was the whole South King County. Her vision was bigger than just Covington and even as far as like the entire footprint of Washington. Her attitude, she's such a positive light, and I think she will bring that light to our Arts Commission and to our art. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Christina. Is there anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? All right, it's been moved and seconded to appoint Paloma Marino Rivera to fill position number 6 on the Arts Commission with a term expiring May 31st, 2027. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Paloma. Council wish to take any further action tonight?
I would.
No.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
raising, I'm sorry. I was
Go ahead.
waiting to see if anyone would do it. I would like to nominate Robin Spandola to fill position number 7 on the Arts Commission with a term expiring May 31, 2027.
Second.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to appoint Robin Spandola to fill position number 7. Jennifer, would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. As Councilmember Porter mentioned, it's definitely tough to decide across candidates that we had for the openings on our Arts Commission. I believe Robin would be a great fit for the commission based on some of her comments during interview. She referred to herself as a lifelong civic-minded volunteer. She would like to beautify spaces with influence from our growing community. She described herself as an introvert that finds common thread to build consensus and has a willingness to roll up her sleeves to dig in. Those are all, things that make a great commission member, especially one that is more tactical in nature, such as Arts Commission.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. Beth, would you like to speak to your second?
To tag on to what Jennifer mentioned, she talked about the fact that art can teach you to take what you have and make something better, almost like a problem solving or beautification. And I found her approach to art and what it can do is not just something to look pretty, but it can help in solving problems, and giving people access to art can help them learn to solve problems on their own. So I felt like it was again, another great aspect to bring to the commission. And she mentioned to don't dwell in why not, but look at how we can get something done or how to move forward. So I think it would be a great complement to the other folks that we have on the commission.
Great, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? All right, it's been moved and seconded to appoint Robin Spindola to fill position number 7 on the Arts Commission with a term expiring May 31st, 2027. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Robin. Next up is new business. Item number 3, consider an appointment to the Youth Council. Does Council wish to take action tonight? Debbie.
Yes, I'd like to, I make a motion to appoint Tricia Hugh Lee to fill position number 13 on the Youth Council with the term expiring June 30th, 2026.
Is there,
I'll second it.
okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded to appoint Tricia Hugh Lee to fill position number 13 on the Youth Council. Debbie, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. It was a pleasure to meet Tricia this evening and very impressed with her leadership background. She's part of the Kent School District and she's in many programs in which she's an officer or running to be an officer, along with ASB and her leadership of her current class, sophomore and freshman included. And she really has wants to have a voice for youth who are not comfortable speaking up for themselves. And she sees that there's a lack of involvement in our youth. And that's really something that the city council wants to help our youth council find a way to heal from. So I applaud Tricia for all the work she does in her leadership positions. I think she'd be a great attribute to our youth council.
Great, thank you, Debbie. Christina, would you like to speak to your second?
Sure. I think Debbie said it, most of it very, very well. But I am also impressed with her passion for the youth. At such a young age, she has so much experience in leadership, and I too really liked that one of the biggest issues facing the youth in Covington was just a lack of involvement. So I'm hoping she can use her skills and get an outreach going on.
Thank you, Christina. If anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to appoint Tricia Hugh Lee to fill position 13 on the Youth Council with a term expiring June 30th, 2026. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Tricia. Next up is new business. Item number 4, appoint the voting delegate for the 2024 Association of Washington Cities Annual Business Meeting. One thing to note on this is that the AWC business meeting is next Thursday, but it's in Vancouver at the Vancouver Convention Center during the annual conference. And currently I am the only one signed up to go. This council, I don't believe there is an online. There is an online, okay, so if they're not signed up for the business meeting yet, they have to register for the business meeting to be able to vote online.
Yeah, and they can do just that and not register for the entirety of the conference.
Okay, so is there anybody that would like to register to be online for the business meeting for next Thursday? And if not, it's not a problem. Okay. And it's from 4 till 5:30, the business meeting. All right, so since I am the only one, is there a motion to appoint Jeff Wagner as the voting delegate to represent the city of Covington at the 2024 Association of Washington Cities Annual Business Meeting?
So moved.
So moved.
And that was quick. All right, Joe, would you like to speak to your motion?
You have the distinction of being there, and you'll represent us well. Nothing else.
I don't have a problem being involved with that. Does anybody else wish to speak about that, since you were all tied in a second? All right,
Mayor,
thank you. Yes,
for the record, can I get a clarification of who seconded that motion?
I think Debbie seconded it first.
Thank you.
But that's only because my left ear hears better than my right ear.
She can be the second.
All right.
Fine.
So it's been moved and seconded to appoint Jeff Wagner as the voting delegate to represent the city of Covington at the 2024 Association of Washington Cities Annual Business Meeting. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. I will represent well. And if not, then you can fill my position at the AWC business meeting next year.
No doubt.
All right, well, next year it is in,
Hawaii.
oh man, Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Has to be held in the state of Washington.
That's what I.
All right. New business item number 5, approve the resolution adopting the 2025 work plan for South King Housing and Homeless Partners, known as SKIP. Daphne. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. Hope you guys can see that. Good evening, council members. I'm Daphne Hernandez. I'm the associate planner for the city of Covington, and I will be doing the SKIP 2025 work plan and budget overview. Typically, Claire Goodwin does these presentations yearly. However, she is currently on maternity leave, so I am stepping in for her and we'll be doing the presentation today. So before I begin to talk about the work plan and budget, I just want to go over what SKIP is for maybe some of the members that are present or want to know a little bit about SKIP. SKIP, or South King County Housing and Homelessness Partners, was formed in 2019 through an interlocal agreement between several city governments and King County to address the housing needs for South King County as a unified coordinating coalition. SKIP currently has 12 jurisdictions, which are listed in the slide in front of you. SeaTac being the most recent jurisdiction that joined late last year. Our city is represented by Councilmember Christina Solstice on the SKIP Executive Board. SKIP's mission is for South King County jurisdictions to work together and share resources to create a coordinated, comprehensive, and equitable approach to increase housing stability, reducing homelessness, and producing and preserving quality efforts housing in South King County. And even though the SKIP Executive Board did already approve the 2020 work plan and budget, per the interlocal agreement, it does require each legislative body to pass before it comes effective. So that is why we're here today. So the 2025 work plan development process is provided in a nice chart in front of you, but I will kind of go over what has led up to tonight's hopeful approval and adoption. The 2025 plan reflects the goals and priorities of the SKIP Executive Board and incorporates the review and feedback of the SKIP Advisory Board and the SKIP Staff Work Group. The Staff Work Group is made of staff from each member jurisdictions that provides guidance to the SKIP Executive Manager. I sit on the Staff Work Group, so I help contribute to some of the work plan. The development has taken place over the past 3 months. In February, surveys were administered to the Executive and Advisory Board. A draft was developed based on the survey results and reviewed by the Staff Work Group. The Staff Work Group feedback was incorporated and a revised draft was shared with the Executive Board. The Executive Board then provided feedback and it was incorporated in the final draft. And then the final draft was reviewed by the Advisory Board, the Staff Group, and to ensure completeness prior to going before the Executive Board. And then on April 19, the Executive Board met and adopted the work plan and budget that was provided in your agenda packet. The adoption by every SKIP member legislative body is a final step and process that is required per the SKIP ILA. So the 2025 work plan goals are listed in front of you. They remain the same as of 2024 for 2025. They include the fund to fund the expansion and preservation of affordable housing, develop policies to expand and preserve affordable housing, serve as an advocate for South King County, and manage operational and administration. Each goal in the work plan has corresponding actions that support the goal. Most goals are continuing the work from previous years. Each goal has corresponding indicators that will assist in measuring progress towards the end, and the full action items for each work plan goal was provided in your agenda packet for tonight. The 2025 operating budget, is total of $468,000. 68% of Skip's expenses go towards the salary of benefits of its two staff, Claire and Dorsal Plant. Regarding revenues, Skip operates budget is funded solely from Skip member contribution and is based on population tiers, which I will go over in the next slide. No member jurisdiction is moving into a new population tier this year, but the executive board adopted a policy back in 2021 to increase member contributions by 15% each year through 2026. Regarding expenses, salaries and benefits are proposed to increase by 5%, IT services by 11%. Advisory board compensation, travel, and supplies are unchanged. Professional service miscellaneous is increasing to accommodate the legal assistance needed for development of housing contracts and third-party construction review of the Housing Capital Fund applications. It also incorporates professional development from the 2024 budget to be more in line with how the administrative agency tracks expenditure categories, The additional funds will support the legal fees for the development and the review of the 3 current contracts and the third-party review for the 2 projects underway. Skip continues to spend down the cost savings from the first 2 years to balance additional contribution increases for each members. And then last on the budget, the executive board recommends operating budget also includes the spend down of interest earnings, accrued primarily from the Housing Capital Fund contributions. Interest earnings between 2019 and 2023 to be applied to the operation funds for the city of Covington is $8,036. To spend the interest earnings requires the approval of each Skip members, which allocates accrued interest based on their contributions. With the adoption of the 2025 operation budget, which incorporates the interest earnings into Skip operation budget funds, the city will provide authorization to Skip to use those funds towards the operation fund. A lot of information. Again, I put all that detail in your agenda packet. So now the operation contribution by population. In front of you, you will see the Skip population tier established in the ILA and the member contribution by year that incorporates the 15% increase per year. The caveat of this table in 2025 is there is an interest in exploring additional staff capacity or other new expenditures. Members' contributions may be higher than what is listed, but we would be discussing that next year. So Claire would give an update when she comes next year to do her presentation. Population by city and year. This table shows the state's Office of Financial Management, or OFM, population data for 2021, 2022, 2023 by each member jurisdiction. For King County, we only have the unincorporated King County estimate, which is much larger than the unincorporated South King County. For 2025 budget, the 2023 population data is used to establish which tiers the city falls into. And the 2024 population estimated is not published until June of 28 of this year. Projected budget for the next couple of years is provided in front of you. This assumes no major activities or expenses. You can see that with the incorporation of the interest earnings into the operation fund balance, it provides additional support as Skip works towards aligning revenues and expenses. The city of Covington's member contribution for 2025 would be $13,118. So in conclusion, for the requirement of the interlocal agreement between
the city and Skip is seeking the council to adopt the 2025 Skip work plan and 2025 operation budget. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. If I'm not able to answer specific questions, I can follow up with council and get in contact with Skip members if I'm not able to answer your
Great.
question.
Thank you, Daphne, for a very good presentation.
Thank you.
Does council have any questions for Daphne tonight? Debbie?
Thank you. Daphne, you may not know the answer to this, but I can't recall from the last time that we saw these numbers. 68% of the revenue is for the two FTEs. Is that percentage up from last year? Do we know?
I don't know from the top of my head, but I can definitely follow up and get the number from last year.
Thank you. And it wouldn't change how I would vote tonight, but I'm just curious because it's such a high percentage of revenue. I'm just concerned as we increase our contribution 15% now year over year. Are we gonna, well, you've already answered that the salary costs are budgeted to go up 5% year over year. So we should not see that percentage change too dramatically, but I'm kind of thinking this might be up from the last time we saw this data.
I can let you know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Debbie. Anybody else have any questions for Daphne? All right, thank you very much,
Thank
Daphne.
you.
Okay, council before us is the potential to approve the resolution to continue funding Skip at the level of $13,118 for the 2025 funding cycle, as well as approve the work plan. Does council wish to take action tonight? Is there? Okay. Been moved. Is there a second? Okay, been moved and seconded. Christina, would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. Skip has been kind of in the baby steps for a very long time. And like I think I've said more in the recent months, it's like a heavy train that takes some time to get moving. It's finally moving and there's finally properties and there's people affected. Potentially, the focus is not homelessness, but housing, and they're accommodating for some of the displacement there. I support this also because it gives us an avenue for our House Bill 1420, 1520. I'm off on the numbers. I know it. 12. Thank you. We could hold on to it, not knowing where it would go, but also be an active contributor to the South King County and the crisis that's going on here. So I support this.
Thank you, Christina. Beth, would you like to speak to your second?
Sure, I'm not seconding it to rubber stamp something because I do know we do have concerns that we should continue to look at what we're getting for our dollars and how. I mean, obviously, we understand we're part of a bigger cog of a regional problem. And so contributing to that is great. And they have resources and people that are able to make this money work. But also just with the lens of we need to continue looking at it year after year and just making sure that our residents are getting a return on their investment. And that there's resources at some point that come here or close to our city limits so that we can also reap some of the benefits of the money that we're putting into it. So I think the train analogy is great because it is finally now getting rolling and then we need to see what can happen in the coming years. But for now, I'm good to continue supporting it.
Great. Thank you, Beth. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Joe.
As the guy who used to be in those meetings, thank you, Christina, for taking that over. I know you enjoy it, but as the guy who also had many battles with Skip about what we were doing and what we were trying to do, it is good to see that they are finally moving ahead and having projects and getting housing out there. I just wish they had been able to do it sooner, but I am thankful that it is getting done. And our investment of $13,118 is, we are getting our money back for that, even if it's not affecting us immediately right now, is going to help us. It's going to be helping our community within the next few years by making sure that the people who are in need of housing have housing somewhere in this, in South King County that they can go to. So I am very good with us approving this plan.
Thank you, Joe. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Debbie?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, while Christina was on maternity leave, I had the pleasure of attending some of the meetings and got to see some of the projects that they're working on. And for our $11,000 this year, and when we combine that with the 11 other jurisdictions, that is going to some very good projects of taking old apartment buildings and refurbing them and using them for affordable housing. So I agree that this was the right, I mean, this is a great program for us to be part of, and agree to move forward.
Thank you, Debbie. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? I agree with you, Beth, that we continue to look at this on a regular basis. Concerns that may pop up or not. But Debbie and everybody that you've spoken about the small investment that we make compared to some of the other cities, and the fact that Skip is actually taking action and building 3 projects: Burien Family Housing, Kent Multicultural Village, and the Skyway Affordable Housing and Early Learning Center. They're moving faster in these few years than other organizations have. So it's great to be part of this.
I just want to get it on the record, if I may.
Yeah.
The 11,000 is wonderful and it is our portion of our dues, but we also have contributed from our House Bill 1220 over 400,000, and we're probably the second largest contributor, and it has made a world of difference. I'll leave it at that.
Just, it was
Thank you.
1590 funds.
Thank you.
And we have contributed over 400,000 in that, so.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution to continue funding Skip at the level of $13,118 for the 2025 funding cycle, as well as approve the work plan. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Daphne. Next is new business item number 6, is to discuss the selection of citizen and honorary citizen of the year. And there's no staff. So before us, we have, let's look at the citizen of the year first. And we have 2 nominations. Is there a motion to approve the citizen of the year? Who would you like to nominate?
I would like to nominate Megan McBride.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to nominate Megan McBride as the Covington Citizen of the Year for 2024. Beth, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, as ever, it's always hard to pick just one person. When I think of Citizen of the Year, I think of somebody whose focus of their efforts are more on the volunteer aspect, and particularly with the focus of the middle school and raising money for art and helping to provide that to students, I think is important. And when you do that on your own time, it's it holds a little bit more weight because you're just doing it out of the goodness of your heart.
Thank you, Beth. Joe, would you like to speak to your second?
Someone who has children at Crestwood, or has a child and had another one who went through there, I see the joy that art brings to both of my children and brings to the children who are at Crestwood in general. And it's an amazing thing that can be done to get people and just interested in anything when it involves the young, because I know I have a 7-year-old who I can't get him to pay attention to diddly squat, but I say, hey, let's go draw. He drops everything and goes and draws. And it's an amazing thing what art can do for people, especially in an education setting, especially in a lifetime setting, and how it helps people of all ages, all genders, all races to just come together. And I think having someone who is dedicated to helping the youth get involved with something, I think that's important. I think it brings value to our community.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? All right, it's been moved and seconded to name Megan McBride as Covington Citizen of the Year for 2024. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Megan, and we'll have the ceremony end of June or first part of July. It'll be up
At Covington Days.
Covington
I
Days.
believe.
Thank you. Next up is to nominate a honorary citizen of the year.
I would like to nominate Rylan Rengley.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to nominate Rylan Rengley as Covington's honorary citizen of the year for 2024. Jennifer, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, we all know Rylan, every single one of us. He touches the community in ways that I could never imagine myself. As someone his age, the fact that he is a high school student and is one of probably the top 3 to 5 visible community members is astonishing to me. The nomination, lists all of the things he's involved with at school and the leadership positions and crew and band. And, I know we're very familiar with his involvement at Storehouse, and he is there at every event, in every picture. I mean, he's been to countless council meetings through his involvement in all of these organizations. He is a shining light of a human being.
Thank you, Jennifer. Joe, would you like to speak to your second?
It's really going to be hard to follow what Jennifer just said. Rylan is just an amazing human being. Just all the things that he gets himself involved in. Because I know when I was his age, I didn't have any time for anything outside of school, and that he has found time to do all of this and makes it a priority is an amazing thing. And that he is serving our community in a way that is just a beautiful way to do it. I think it's amazing. I think it's a good honor for him to be our honorary citizen of the year.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Debbie?
Well, I work pretty closely with Rylan since I'm on the board for the Storehouse Food Bank, and he is an employee there. But I learned through the nomination, I didn't even know that he volunteers at Elk Run. Okay, so Beth probably knew that. He is an extraordinary person, and he exemplifies community caring in every aspect of what he does. So this is a delight.
Sean?
Yeah, not to belabor it, but I think Rylan kind of epitomizes what this nomination or this award is for people that go above and beyond to make Covington a better community. And his being a high school student, just that much more supports this nomination. I mean, he's just incredible. In fact, it'd be interesting to just rename the award after Rylan. So, because it's just kind of the example of what we're actually looking for in both, and on top of it, he's not even a citizen of Covington, and just getting involved in our community. So, I wholeheartedly support this nomination.
Thank you. Christina?
Thank you. Every time I see Rylan out in the community, I'm appalled that he can be everywhere at once. He probably has a clone, but he has lived so much life in his 17, 18 years. And I'll just bring on with this. Next to servanthood in the dictionary is probably Ryland's name, and he should have a halo over his head. He's just amazing.
Thank you, Christina. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion?
I just want to correct one thing. He was a high school student. He graduated last week and also graduated with his
Oh.
AA
Mhm.
from Green River. So did that in his spare time. Okay.
Shocker.
I can't go without saying how much I would support this nomination. I mean, everybody said everything, we all know it. But I'm just glad that I saw his name on the list of nominees.
I am just amazed at how much this young man gets done. I always think that I'm everywhere, but he's everywhere where I'm not.
Yep.
And we can be discussing something that needs to get done. Ryland's standing there and all of a sudden he's gone and he's getting it done. And he has team members that go with him, that follow him. He's a born leader. And this is, yeah, he's definitely perfect for this. It's been moved and seconded to name Ryland Rengley as Covington's Honorary Citizen of the Year for 2024. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Ryland. Next is new business item number 7. Consider an ordinance amending sections 3.95 and 3.96 of the Covington Municipal Code. Casey.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm gonna do a brief PowerPoint presentation for you to hopefully make this as clear as mud for you.
I don't know, I've seen some pretty clear mud lately. I spoke to the auditor's office, so we're pretty good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I actually enjoyed it.
That's good. They're good folks. They really are.
Yes, they are.
So just a little background of why is it not doing it up on the screen? Doing it on my screen. Let me get it back out. It's thinking about it. While it's thinking about it, let me just give you a little background of why we're here. So as staff has begun working on implementing the B&O that goes into effect on July 1st, just right around the corner here, we were starting to run into just thinking through how the threshold is going to work. And so just to refresh your memory, council adopted a $250,000 threshold for businesses for reporting and filing. And what that meant was anybody that was under $250,000, they would pay no B&O tax for the year. Anybody that's over 250, they pay. Sounds super simple. But the way that we currently have the code written, excuse me, we have it written that it is based on a quarterly amount of $62,500. What that could mean is, I'll show you if I can get this to load here. I'm gonna try it one more time. Just gonna go all the way out. It could mean that folks will not pay. They would have to pay, well, let me just show you. I don't wanna muddle it here. Let me try to see if I can get this to share. Okay. Want me to just try one more time?
There it goes.
There we go. There we go. Okay, so what that means is. Oh, just clear. Okay, I gotcha. So for 2024, I'll just start at the beginning and I'll kind of walk you through, and please stop me if you have any questions. Again, this, like I said, it's a little confusing. So what we're currently proposing is in 2024, all businesses will do a one-time filing, and that will be due January 31st of next year. If you're over $250,000 in gross income in 2024, January through December, if you have $250,000, you will pay your B&O based on your earnings from July 1st when the tax is effective through December 31st. So that's great. That's easy. So businesses will also will have a box that they'll report their total gross income for 2024. And then we can use that to determine their filing status for 2025. So for the entire year, you made $250,001, let's say, you are going to be a quarterly filer. You'll file quarterly and send us your income. If you made under that $250,000 threshold, you will pay annually. So we're trying to make as easy as possible for folks that are under that threshold. They just file a zero return with us, file no taxes due, and send it in. So we're hoping to use the previous year's gross income as kind of their filing status for the next year. So let me just show you what we propose in 2025. Well, I'll show you a couple different things. So as the code is currently written, we have the $62,500 threshold for the quarterly reporting. So let's just take, for example, I've got EDC business. They are under the 62,500 for first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and then fourth quarter. All of a sudden they bounce over that 62.5 and they need to pay. So they owe me $168 for fourth quarter, but you can see their total. They're under $250,000, right? So that's where we were kind of running into, oh, well, the council's intent was if it was up under $250,000, you didn't want them to pay. My blue sheet says that then we would provide a refund, but the way that the code is currently written, no refund would technically be provided. That was an error on my part. No refund would be provided because it's technically meeting the purpose of the code. The code says 62.5, you're over, you're under, you pay, you don't. There's no refunds. So the next example is what's in the proposed amendment. So the proposed amendment says you would pay based on your filing status. So this is somebody that in 2024 made, let's say, $500,000 and they qualify to be a quarterly filer. They're over that threshold. They've got to send us quarterly. So technically they would have to pay first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter based on their earnings. We get to the end of the year, they're under the 250. And they've paid me all year long. They've paid me $498 total. I could do a refund. That language is in here to allow me to do a refund if I take out that quarterly threshold language that's in there. I could do a refund. I do have to pay them interest. I have to pay them 6% interest based on whatever they pay. The rates are set by the Department of Revenue annually. So I would have to pay them, they pay me $498, I would have to pay them $527 and change. And if they didn't meet the threshold of 250 by the end of the year. So we have those couple of different scenarios, which I just wanted to be super transparent and bring that to you and just not move forward with the way the code was currently written until I got your input on which option you would prefer. I will mention that these two scenarios right here would be a one-time occurrence because in 2026, I'm looking back at their income for 2025 and saying, oh, you were 249, you're under the 250 threshold, you're now an annual filer. So in the next year, if they're under again, this scenario wouldn't happen. So this is would be a one-time occurrence for these folks. I will also say that administratively, staff would actually prefer to keep the 62,500 language. It's easier for us not to have to process those refunds and track that through. But I wanted to bring both of them forward to you for discussion. Just we're right around the corner from it being effective. And I didn't want a business to come in and say, I was under the 250, but I paid each quarter. I just wanted to bring that to you and have a discussion.
So you're looking for council to either keep it as is or to go with the new proposed amendment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Does council have any questions for Casey? Beth?
Yeah, I thought I got it. Can you just explain that example two again? Because I felt like we wouldn't, could you just explain it?
Yeah. So what this is this business in 2024 was, look, I'll just use the example of $500,000. Their gross income was $500,000. So that would mean I would assign them a quarterly reporting status for 2025. So they would have to pay, since that quarterly threshold language would be removed from the code, they would have to pay based on their gross income earnings, regardless of the dollar amount every single quarter until I get to the end. And then I can run a report out of my financial software and be like, ooh, they're under the 250 and I can cut a check. I will say, we're hoping this is few and far between. We had two businesses that self-reported in our business license module that were at that threshold, but I will also mention that I've spoken with a lot of different cities. We were just on a roundtable last week and nobody refunds. They don't. They don't. They do the quarterly reporting threshold, you pay or you don't pay. The next year, your filing status can change. And then you would be, if you're under the threshold, you don't pay. So that's how most cities do it, is the way that we currently have it in the code, because we were following the model ordinance, but we are allowed to deviate from it. So, is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you.
Christina.
So my understanding is that you would like to cut a check at the end of the year for those who are, would that make it easier? Because from my understanding, I thought that we would want to avoid that, because that would be more administrative work.
Administratively,
Yeah.
we would prefer to stick with the code the way it is, but I just wanted to be completely transparent and bring it to you because I don't feel like it 100% met your intent.
Oh.
You know, your intent was 250 and under, we don't want you to pay. So I was trying to tweak it and bring you that proposal just in case you wanted to.
So the option is they pay without a refund,
Correct.
or
We refund,
they refund.
yes,
And
with interest.
now, is there a different option? Can there be an option C where we can raise or remove quarterly? Can we do it at the half year mark, or?
We were also kicking around the idea of like, could we handle doing an annual filing for all businesses? And then you get away from
Right.
quarterly reporting, you get away from the thresholds. If you're under 250, you just don't pay at the end of the year. We don't feel we have the staff capacity to handle that month of peak workload. And what I'll mention is, we're just getting ready to send out postcards, and all the businesses that had done any business in the Covington in the last year, there was over 12,000 of them. So we're sending out postcards to those that were 50,000 and over, just to give everybody, and that still gets me down to 3,019. So I don't think we have the capacity to try to do something easier like that.
So the capacity for processing them all at once
All at once.
outweighs you cutting refund checks.
Yeah, it would
Okay,
definitely administratively.
then
cost-wise.
that's pretty simple to me.
And you also run into the questions throughout the year, and we really should be auditing some of the businesses.
Yeah.
And also helping, or monitor the new businesses that come in and help them get set up and things like that. So administratively, it's easier to have it on a quarterly basis. And we'll have a good chunk though that will be no tax due filers that are gonna be under that threshold. But really, if there's no tax due, we can kind of work on those a little bit at a time, getting them into the system.
Any other questions? Debbie?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 questions. One, is the 6% interest a state mandate?
Yes, it's set by the Department of Annual Revenue. or,
Okay.
Yeah, Department of Revenue annually. excuse
All
me.
right, thank you. And then if we go with example 2 proposed, will they, and we're, because last year in this, okay, in your scenario, this business made $500,000. Okay, so they're going to be a quarterly reporter. So they're going to see on a quarterly basis that they owe $110.
Correct.
But are you gonna collect it all? You're gonna collect it all along? Okay, and then at the end of the year, when they've made less than 250,000, that's when the credit comes in. Okay,
Yes.
got it. Thank you. And then there's no mention of the $62,000.
Yeah, we can just pull that quarterly language right out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Sean?
Did I understand correctly? You think there'd be very few that we be writing checks to at the end of the year?
Based on the information that we've gotten from the business license division, people self-report what they feel like their income is going to be. And we only had a few folks on there that were right at the 250, but that's an estimate, so we don't, know for sure exactly what's gonna come in. But like I said, it would really just be a one-time,
Right.
year, and then the next year they would fall to the annual, unless then it could go back and forth.
Right.
You make more, you make less,
Yeah.
but then I have the discretion as director to kind of monitor those businesses that are right on the line and keep them an annual filer. Like if one year you made 260 and then you're 240 and then you're 270, I'll just keep you an annual. I can make that discretion, that call to not have that business be bouncing around. And it's confusing for them too, to be quarterly one year, annual the next. And
Just
something
curious
like that.
view, is that 100? Is that 5? You just-
There was only two businesses that
great, okay.
self-reported, but,
So that's few.
like I said, it's an estimate, so
Yeah.
I can't tell for sure.
And then the other thing I'm a little nervous about, well, if it's only two, but if there were a huge amount and we're collecting that money or we're spending it though, I assume throughout the year too. But then we gotta pay interest on any money we collected. There's a potential that could, and if it's only two, but we got a budget for that potential interest that we're paying too. So just a heads up on that.
Thank you. Christina?
May I make the motion?
Yes.
I move to pass the ordinance clarifying the business and occupation tax by amending sections 3.95 and the other two of the Covington Municipal Code, or do I have to state it?
Nope, you don't. You're good. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to pass an ordinance clarifying the business and occupation tax by amending sections 3.95.040, 3.95.050, and 3.96.060 of the Covington Municipal Code. Christina, would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. It has been made clear that the burden on staff is lesser with example 2. I'm so sorry, with example, well, we're going to example 2.
The proposed ordinance before you tonight
Is to
is a higher burden on staff.
Yeah.
with the removing or with the refunding.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but then with the contrast in what we talked about earlier. It's okay.
Want me to clarify?
No. It is what staff prefers.
Staff would prefer
Just stay.
to not have any changes. I just wanted to bring the proposal to you to have it prepared because we're so close to the effective date. Just in case you guys wanted to go the other way. Staff would prefer to stick with the 62,500, not make any changes, not adopt this ordinance. But
That's right.
But it's your
But
preference.
I'm sorry, clarity for to be transparent to the citizens is where I'm going with this. I would like to see what the end of this first year shows, and then maybe we could revisit this again, but to be transparent to the citizens is the better option for me. And removing that so that they can, even if it means having a refund for someone. It doesn't sound like there's too many businesses. If it's 2, 3, 5, that 6% won't kill us at the end of the year, but I would rather be transparent with the citizens and the residents and sorry for the burden. But I just don't think it's right to keep people's money when they make less than $250, especially in our first year.
Okay, thank you. Debbie, would you like to speak to your second?
Well, to say I was confused because I thought this was your recommendation.
Right. I
in-
apologize.
Okay, no, it's not. It's my misunderstanding.
Me too.
So it does clarify it for our business community. It makes it a little more simplified for them, but not for our staff.
Because of the
Is that
refunds.
a correct statement?
I could kind of go
I
either
I don't know that it will do that necessarily. The real thing that this does is it meets that exact 250 point that council
Right.
set.
Mhm.
Otherwise, the ordinance as we currently have it, there's gonna be a little bit of wiggle room. The proposed ordinance sets it exactly at that 250. If you make under that, you're not gonna pay.
Right.
With the current ordinance, if you make 249, you might pay.
Right.
So a little bit of beat
Right,
out.
which is our
Could pay a
intention.
lot.
That was our
Okay.
intention, yeah.
This is our intention with the original. That was what's happening.
Sorry, when I first talked about,
Okay, Debbie's still speaking.
Well, I wish I could speak. So the
Well, you're
first,
still speaking for
well,
a second.
okay, thank you. So the first example is current. And it is less, it's less of a financial burden on the business. It's $168 versus $498.
But they
Correct?
wouldn't have.
It's
Well,
not-
I-
And it's not the same
No.
example.
Okay,
So
I'm keeping it. I
Oh,
would
you're
be
right.
refunding it.
okay.
It's very confusing. That's why I said it's
Yeah.
clear as mud.
And I thought I understood this before we saw, before
So-
this chart.
I will come to you.
Mhm.
Currently, the way it is set we have set the threshold at $250,000 annually for businesses, $250,000 and below, they don't pay B and O tax. $250,001, they pay a B and O tax. Under the current ordinance that we have, looking at example one, because they pay quarterly, at 55,000 for each of the first 3 quarters, they're not paying any tax because they're under the 62,500 quarterly threshold. The 4th quarter now, they're making $84,000. They're gonna pay $168. Even though at the end of the year, they're still under 250, they paid 168, which is not the council's intent. They wouldn't get a refund.
Yeah.
With the proposed amendment, they're gonna be paying quarterly because they made, so 2023, they made over 250,000. They're gonna pay quarterly. So $110 is the quarterly B and O tax that they would pay. I used to own a business. Paying B and O taxes is quarterly. You just do it. Even as a 1099 employee, you pay quarterly taxes. But now in the 4th quarter, they're gonna pay 168 because they made 84,000. But at the end of the year, they only made 249,000. So it's under the council's intent of 250,000. So we as a city are going to issue that business a refund plus interest because our intent is not to have that business pay a B and O tax. And that's why Casey's bringing this proposed amendment to us to match council's intent with the 250,000 threshold. Did I get that correct?
Perfect.
Okay. Sean?
Yeah, I second that, and I mean, that's one of the big selling points of this B and O tax is that we are on record saying anyone under 250,000 would not be paying the tax. And so I don't see how we can in good faith continue with what we've got and have someone come in, even if it's only $168, I'd be hopping mad that, I wasn't supposed to pay this. So if I understand it correctly, will basically be 1 year where we could do some refunds, but in the future, we hopefully will get that figured out and we won't have this problem again. So I'm gonna support amending the code to better reflect what we actually intended.
Thank you, Sean. Beth?
I agree with what Sean said, and I know that, we try to avoid putting burden on staff because we know how limited resources is, but at the same time, like, this is the first year go round. And we want to try to back up what we said that we wanted to do and what we wanted to accomplish and who we wanted to preserve from having to pay this for small businesses and our support for small business community. And I would presume that if things really went sideways and it was causing a huge mess, we could go back to the other way in a few years we'd still exempt them at the end of the day, but I feel like there's probably room to play in the future, and I think we should stick with this for now, just since with the change.
Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Right, it's been moved and seconded to pass an ordinance clarifying the business and occupation tax by amending section 3.95.040, 3.95050, and 3.96.060 of the Covington Municipal Code. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ordinance passes. Thank you all very much. That concludes new business. Future agenda items, looking at our next council meeting, we start at 7 o'clock on June 25th. Does council have anything they'd like to see at a future agenda? All right. That brings us to council staff comments. Start with Adam.
As the council's aware, we had an explosive device earlier at 272nd and Covington Sawyer. Our officers kept people out of the area, called in the bomb techs. They detonated the device and the suspect returned while we were doing that. We arrested them and they've been booked. So nice job by our officers keep people away, and thankful for King County to bring out their bomb folks.
Thank you, Please pass on our thanks to the
Everyone.
team for taking fast action and securing the location so that nothing more dangerous could have happened. So thank you. Ethan, is Ethan online? Yep, there's Ethan.
Yeah, hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. Nothing from me tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Don,
Nothing for me either. Thank you.
thanks, Don. Selena,
Nothing for me, thank you.
thank you. Casey.
Thank you for helping me muddle through that. I appreciate it.
No problem.
It was confusing.
Mark.
Nothing else, thank you.
Thanks, Casey. You're on mute, sir.
Thank you. There's no executive session and I have no additional report. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Regan.
Just one thing, to let council know, our Covington Youth Council will be representing the city at the Kent School Board meeting tomorrow night.
Nice.
And sharing what any of their concerns and issues regarding the school district.
Thanks, Regan.
That's not what I'm watching.
Kristen.
I just want to confirm that the 2024 Citizen and Honorary Citizen of the Year recognition is scheduled for our July 9th regular city council meeting.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Kate. For everybody. Thanks, Krista. Joe.
It is official. I am now graduated from college.
About time.
Yeah, yeah. I took the non-traditional route. What can I say? That just means that there's only one thing left to do, and that's finding a job. I do have a second interview at a school on Thursday, but I just keep applying. So I thank you to those of you in this room who have written me some recommendation letters, and I thank you for those of you who have persisted through numerous text messages or conversations of, hey, did you get an email from a school or a phone call or something? So I appreciate you all for that. And with that said, next time we meet, I will no longer have a junior in high school. I will have a senior in high school because Friday is the last day of school. So that's Jennifer, you're gonna have to help me figure out how to survive that. Other than that, pick tomorrow night, we are going to discuss our new operating procedures. The biggest one that's there is that if we are going to resign as the PIC member from our city, we need to let PIC know, and they highly recommend that we let our cities know that we do that. It's not a requirement from PIC that we let you all know that we will no longer be the PIC member for the city, but we have to let PIC know. So Christina, that just affects you and I at this moment, but I don't plan to resign from PIC anytime soon, so you're safe still. Other than that, lots of after Friday 3 o'clock meetings that usually were just myself, Chris Roberts, David Hoffman, and Andy from SEA, just talking about how this should look. But it was a few months worth of work, and we're gonna finally have it all done and probably voted on tomorrow night. So other than that, yeah, that's all I've got right now.
Well, congratulations on getting your degree. So
Thank you.
Well deserved. Jennifer.
Just to say, I really appreciate our foresight years ago when we decided to allow council members to attend virtually. It came up really handy when I was sick. Now I'm in California multitasking life, and so it's really beneficial to work from here, my day job, and attend council meetings and actually fulfill commitments. So yeah, very, very much appreciated.
Thank you, Jennifer. Debbie.
Thank you. Well, I feel like I've missed a lot because I missed the last council meeting, came back, had back surgery. So I'm back in the loop now and anxious to get fully up to speed. I did want to thank and congratulate Chief Easterbrook on your team. They've really been doing some nice arrests lately, and today was like amazing quick. So thank you very much. That's it.
Thanks, Debbie. Sean.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next RFA meeting is this Thursday, so I don't have a report on that. It's been a while since I've been here, so pardon me if this has already been talked about, but I attended the Cedar Heights I guess it was social studies presentations and truly enjoyed that. I got to meet with two 8th grade classes and talk about the importance of getting involved and what we do as city council members and how their voice matters. And yeah, and we got some good feedback from them, and hopefully we can do that again next year, and if possible, expand it to some of the other middle schools. So I thought it was great. 2 weekends ago, I went to the Fremont Thrift Fair, which is really kind of interesting. It's touted as the state's largest open like flea market, but it's higher end than that. And just got me thinking, as we had gone to the Tri-Cities meeting, that Black Diamond does a citywide garage sale as well. And I'm just wondering, at some point, if we couldn't think of something, you know, have a thrift-like event that Fremont's doing, but also have a table for items that were donated to the city for us to sell, that we could then generate funds for, say, our human services or our art commission or something like that. I mean, there were a lot of people at this thrift fair. So if you haven't been, I think it's every Sunday. It's definitely worth checking out, but it's an interesting twist on the makers market and the farmers market. It's basically secondhand clothes that people are turning around and upselling. And so it's a different clientele and a different kind of business clientele as well. So I think it might have the potential to generate some funds for the city as well. So and then just the last thing, June 6th, we had the D-Day celebration, commemoration of the 80th anniversary of that event. If you haven't watched the celebration, it's on YouTube. It's only an hour and a half. It's definitely worth checking out. I think I put on Facebook, if you're pressed for time, I think the most important part is the giving or the presentation of the Legion of Honor to, I guess, 11 D-Day veterans. Pretty powerful and very moving. So if you have an opportunity, I encourage you all to check that out. So that's it.
Thanks, Sean. Beth.
Just wanted to say thank you to the audience. I know a lot of them have left. We have some diehards for all of the work that you're doing and helping. It really does take a community, and staff have limited resources, and we're all busy with our day jobs, most of us, and we're volunteering and doing all of the things. So to have folks come and bring different perspectives and facts and resources for us to use when we're making decisions is, you know, it's commendable, and that collaboration between all of us is what's going to help move our city forward, to be honest. And I also wanted to, in that same vein, I'm blessed to be given a sabbatical at work, and I will be on sabbatical for the month of July, most of the month of July, doing some fun stuff, but also continuing to help do some work with the city in my role. And I recently RSVP'd to the King County Climate Cities for Climate workshop for elected officials on July 16th. So it'll be interesting. We are not a participating city at this point, just because we aren't yet. But it'll be interesting to kind of be a fly on the wall and see what discussions are around our state climate act and some of the initiatives that are coming through on the ballot, how that may or may not impact. And what I think initially is the state desire, and a lot of our residents, the desire to look at clean energy and how we can help with sustainability, but also that adage of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater along the way, trying to achieve some of those results. So it'll be interesting to see what's discussed and how you know, that's going to do any impacting for our city or not. But it's going to be in Seattle, so I gotta from 3 to 5 p.m. figure out the train schedule or figure out how to get downtown Seattle. But I'll be looking forward to collaborating and connecting. Yeah, so, and Covington Days, I mean, geez, it's only like, what, 5 weeks away? Are we gonna have a city council? Are we gonna do the candy and all that like we did last year? Do we know? I was gonna ask about that.
That's the plan if you're up for it.
Yeah, okay. Love tossing candy to the people. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about it. Looking forward to it. And great nominations tonight.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
Appreciate
Beth.
everybody. Yeah.
Christina.
Yeah, also echo Beth. Thank you to everyone that was here and still is here. We couldn't do this without you. We do this because you exist. So just another wonderful meeting I'm grateful for. And this coming Friday, we have our quarterly in-person meeting with Skip. If anyone does have any questions that you would, if I can't answer, that you would like me to ask, that more pertain to Covington, I would love to take that to the board. And we're a collaborative group. And I personally prefer these in-person meetings versus the virtual. There's a lot more that can be done in a quicker fashion. So I am looking forward to that. And like Sean said, when we met with the middle schoolers, that was wonderful. I would also like to see us do that again. And the timing is critical too, because we're getting them right before they go into high school, and what of an impact to make when it comes to the youth commission council. So that was really, really cool. Yeah, I too am looking forward. School is, just a hair of being done, and we're all home now. So good luck to everyone who's a parent. May the next 10 weeks, may the force be with you, I suppose. And the sunshine too.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
We're moving to our second of 2 public comment periods. Speakers will state their name, address, and organization. Comments are directed to the city council, not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to no more than 4 minutes per speaker. For attendees participating virtually, click the raise hand button in Zoom. For attendees participating by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. Once the city grants you permission to speak, press unmute if participating virtually, or dial *6 to unmute if participating by phone. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to address council this evening? Is there anybody online wishing to address council? Seeing nobody approach the podium or raise their hand, this council meeting is adjourned at 9:17. Thank you all very much.